Do you check your notifications on Twitter? They gotta be wild, Eric. They got to be out of control.
There's so many dummies out there. Just come on, bring it on. I'll educate you. No, but what happened was we played that game, right? So this is the cool part for me, and I'm gonna try not to cry, because I'll try not to get emotional.
Yeah, you can cry.
I might.
It's a crying show. Clint's cried more than anyone on here.
Look at the damn issues.
You've cried more than anyone else.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you
Yes, you have.
You can't tell what he's crying.
Eric, I'm sure you saw him crying about the fact that Thierry wasn't his coach.
And the wind just catches the wind, bro.
Ain't no wind in
That
here.
time when you told us how Thierry wasn't your coach and you got emotional.
That's not what I was talking about.
Violation. Oh, you thought I was done? Oh my God. No. Oh my God. Gotta face it, I'm the one. I want the check, want the check, want the check. Give me my respect, my respect, my respect. Medals on my neck, on my neck, on my neck. Tell them I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. What they talking about?
Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Kickin' It. This time, our guest, legendary US men's national team player, Hall of Famer, Eric Wynalda. Welcome. Good to have you, man.
It's great to be here.
Eric's actually the first person I worked with in US television. Came over in 2015 to do the Women's World Cup.
Save the day.
Well, I don't think I saved the
No,
day.
because I was doing the hosting, and we needed a host. It was very clear I was not a host. And
You know what else you made very clear is that I came over thinking that I had like made it in television. Oh, I'm on American TV now. Look at me, I'm hitting the big time. Eric was like, this is the B team. You are on the B team.
Who was the A team?
No, but I mean
Alexi, Rob.
Yeah, it's like if you've worked with Alexi, you know how that works. It's like, okay, Alexi, you go for 30 seconds. Eric, you go for 30. 52 seconds later, they look at you and say,
Why you laughing so hard?
let's take it a break. You know, thanks, Lex. I'm not going to be able to finish
Mo,
that
you
sentence.
experienced that?
Hey,
Mo said no comment.
Earlier that he was your roommate?
Yeah, so Lex and I got stuck with Lexi after the '94 World Cup because nobody wanted him.
Eric.
No, it's true. I mean, he was really a mess. He would play the guitar, and I would do my John Cougar Mellencamp. What are all those stupid songs, you know?
Can we get a little bit rendition of one of them now?
Not right now. Let me have a little bit more coffee, man. But I think that era was different. It was a different time, and we were
In a good way?
Very good way. But at the same time, it was really hard. You guys had Tony on this show, and I remember seeing that, and that was hard to watch as a friend, because I know what he was talking about, and that's a very crucial time in American soccer history. But we were a group of guys that went through a lot, and to see him, emotionally share that, because I think that resonates with our group, because we all kind of feel that way. The part where he said, I got kicked off the team, and then somebody whispered in my ear, you'll never play for the national team, or we never thought you'd play for the national team again. There was a concerted effort to keep him out. So, when he
Was that obvious to you being on the team? That
That happened to you?
I got kicked off 3 times, so I got him beat. So so we all know what that feels like.
What did you do, though?
This is the way we were treated, okay? We were called ingrates to our face by the Federation, by the president, by anybody that we were lucky to be there, and we should be so happy to be a part of all this. And all we were trying to do out of the love of the game was to play and prove that Americans were good, that we could compete. That was our goal. That's all we cared about. As a young kid, I was 22 years old, and I got called into a meeting with my coach, Bora Milutinović, who didn't really speak great English. He was, we never really figured out where he was from. It was Serbia, Yugoslavia, I don't know which part it was. But he pulls me into a meeting, if you can imagine. And the first thing he says to me, I sit down, he goes, sit down. He goes, you don't go to play. And I go, what do you mean? I've been working really hard for this. We got Portugal. You don't play. And I said, why? Like, what did I do wrong? It was the first thing you think. Because like the mind games, the way that they would do that to us, it was always about we weren't good enough. And Bora was always trying to teach us a lesson because we were Americans and we obviously didn't know what the fuck we were doing. That's the way that they treated us. So he says, you don't go to play, and I said, why? And he said, because Roy Wegerle's coming from England, and the cost of his ticket is $2,000. And Peter Vermees is coming from Figueres in Spain, and the cost of his ticket is $2,000. And your ticket is $112. So you're not important. What do he goes, what do I go to do? What do I tell the Federation? And I said, you tell the Federation that you're the coach of this team and your job is to pick the best players to win. That's why I'm here. This isn't fair. And I was brash, I was young, and I said, this is bullshit.
You're still brash.
Yeah, it didn't go away, right? But the next day at practice, every time I got the ball, I made something happen. But I would score or I would get an assist, and I'd run past my coach, and I said, you fucking see that? Is that not good enough for you? And he was like, you need to be quiet. And I said, well, you need to be a better coach.
You're saying this in front of the whole group?
Oh, no, I was in close proximity. I think Reyna-Berhalter might have heard it. And he was like, what are you doing, man? But they didn't know about the meeting, right? They didn't know that I had just been told I'm going to be here and I'm not going to get to play. So I asked him, I said, I want to respectfully ask to go back to my club to play. If you're not good enough to be here, then fine, let me go back to my club and earn money. And it wasn't a lot of money. I mean, it was like, that's the funny part. I mean, when Tony was talking about the tiers, like, I was down here. I was like, you know, making $18,000 a year. Prorated, signed that thing in March. So it's about 15 grand a year. So I was expendable.
What happened when he talked back and was doing all that stuff?
So he shut it down, and then we went to get some water. A couple of my teammates tried to help me, Tony being one of them. And the point is, dude, you know, just go with it, man. What did I do? Mark Chung, beautiful man, great friend. We've been friends for forever. Tried to get the ball from me, and I just broke his face. I was angry. I didn't want him to get the ball, and I elbowed him, and that was it. I was on a plane later that night, and I got sent home.
So, my question to you then is, you go through all that, but then you become like the striker for the U.S. men's national team.
Oh, it gets worse before it gets better. So when I drove all the way home and tried to explain to my father, who was like, let me get this straight, you drop out of school for an $18,000 contract, and now you get kicked off the team. And, you know, of course, my mom is there going, well, okay, well, where do we go from here? You know, and I was like, always like, you know, the positive spin mom, right? And my dad was really, really upset with me, because you gotta understand, my dad was he was Princeton man, valedictorian,
Oh, wow.
captain of the football team.
High expectations.
Yeah, he always wanted me to be a student, and I wasn't very good at that. So when he backed me to drop out of school to pursue this, it was a big deal for us. And then to see it all just up in smoke in 1 week, like literally 3 days. It was kind of crazy. But Tom Dooley when I went home to see my dad and explain it to me, I explained it to him, he said, well, there's good news and bad news. Obviously, this is the bad news. He said, but there's a bunch of messages on the answering machine, and they're all in German, and I don't know. You want to go listen to that? So I did. I had 6 in a row. It was Tom Dooley first, and then it was an agent, and then it was a guy named Wolfgang Kuhlmann. How about that for a name, right? And he said, you have a standing contract to come play in the German Bundesliga. Just get on the plane. No tryout necessary. And I didn't know that. So like I had thrown my whole life away and got in my car. I had an
got lucky.
I did get lucky. I mean, and this has a point, you know, because what ended up happening with me is I was very fortunate that I had one guy that had seen me play a year and a half prior to that and thought I was good. And he tried to invite me to go to Schalke 04. And I said no. I know.
Why?
Because it was second division, and I thought I was a first division player. I know, but he took that team up to the first division and got fired. And then he moved to Saarbrücken, and he took them up to the first division, and then he called me. And he said, this time you're saying, yes, I'm a first division coach. This is the Bundesliga. You're the first American to ever have this opportunity if you say no to me now, you're just a dummy. And I was like, I'm on the plane. And
So it feels like you were a little bit of a rebel, in a way.
A little bit?
A little bit. I'm being polite here.
How did that work with getting back into the national team and y'all being on good terms again? How long did that take?
Well, that was quite a process, to be honest. But I got loaned, and I signed a big contract, and then the game started. You'll appreciate this because you speak German. Every fucking day, Scheisami is all they called me. Hey, du Scheisami. Which means shit American, if you didn't know. Shit American, shit American, shit American, every day. And it was a fight because I was like, look, I just scored 3 goals. I'm not shit, obviously. We all won money because of, you know, I'm trying to be a part of this team, but I was the only one. I was the first one. I was the first American. Nobody knew how to handle it. And it was the assumption back then that Americans sucked at this.
When we had Tony Meola on, we said to him, hey, would you trade your era for, you know, the era of this current generation?
Let me answer that a little differently. 1,000%, I'd love to be 22 years old right now in this world.
Well, he said, hell no, but you would trade.
Oh, I would trade it.
Do you feel like
It's not even a thought. But okay, but I
Why?
understand.
You got to be the first. You got to break ground. Like, isn't there something
Right.
special with that?
It
Where you're
is.
like, hey, look at that money they making. No, let me get some of that.
No, and I remember all the calls from my teammates, and Tony was one of them. He was so happy. Like, he was just a good teammate, right? So here's how it went down. So we played the first away game against Leverkusen. It was very good. We tied 1-1, and you know how the newspapers work. Then they give you ratings and everything. And that affected me. And I was like, I got the highest rating in the game.
Oh, you used to read the ratings?
Oh, I was back then. I was like
Charlie was doing that shit, too.
psychotic.
Yeah, you didn't have the internet. You had to look at the papers.
Every player reads it.
Do you check your notifications on Twitter? They got to be wild, Eric. They got to be
I argue
out
with
of
people.
control.
There's so many dummies out there. Just come on, bring it on. I'll educate you. No, but what happened was we played that game, right? So this is the cool part for me, and I'm gonna try not to cry because I'll try not to get emotional.
Yeah, you can cry.
I might.
It's a crying show.
Yeah.
Clint's cried more than anyone on here.
Look at the damn
What?
issues.
You've cried more than anyone else.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you
Yes, you have.
You
No,
can't
I
tell
haven't.
what he's crying.
Eric, I'm sure you saw him
You
crying
keep
about the
dying.
You know I
fact that
got
Thierry
big
wasn't
eyes
his
and the
coach.
wind just catches me.
Win, bro. Ain't no win in
That
here.
time when you told us how Thierry wasn't your coach and you got emotional.
That's not what I was talking about. I was talking about my sister. If only I had a coach
See, but
like
that's what
TT.
happens. It's family.
Man, hey,
It's
I'm
family.
done with y'all. I'm glad this is our, last month together. If only I had we have one season in the books.
And then being a dad, too.
I'll see
you
y'all
start
later.
crying, too.
No, but also, going
Yeah.
back to it, like, you can imagine my father, as disappointed as he was. When we played against Leverkusen, I remember calling him and saying, I can do this. I can do this. And you got to understand, guys, I was carrying the flag for everybody. That's my mentality. Every day I'd wake up and I'd think about all the people I don't know yet. But the only perception that anybody's going to have of the American player is me. I can't fuck this up. That's the way I felt. So I called my dad and I said, okay, Mom, Dad, I'm flying you in.
That had to be cool, be able
Yeah.
to be in a position to do that.
Because I was like, the first thing I said to my dad, I go, I got it, I'm flying you in. And he goes, you sure? I said, I can afford it. It was the first thing out of my mouth, because I was proud that I was earning money and all that. But so they flew in, and they were at my first home game in Saarbrücken, and I scored both goals against Oliver Kahn. I called him a stormtrooper at the end of the game. That was the best.
Your mentality is clear, right? You're gonna show people that Americans could play, and I think we all had that same type of mentality when we went over, and that was, 20 years, 15 years after you.
Man, he just dated me there. That was
Yeah.
bad.
That's messed up.
No, but
At least 30, right?
right?
I looked up to you, right? At one story.
When he had them sign wideners on?
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but 97, April 20th, 1997.
Didn't you score the first goal in MLS?
You played against Mexico in Foxborough with the U.S. men's national team, 2-2, right? After the game, it's my first ever time watching a U.S. men's national team play.
Wow,
So I'm
that was a good game.
I I was surprised, shocked that you all came out and you, Marcelo Balboa, took the time to sign my ball. And I remember your autograph was just Eric. And I remember being
I just would do that, yeah.
I was like, this was like gold for
cool,
me,
man.
right? I won the lottery, and I held that ball with me, and I would sleep with it, and I just remember being so grateful that you took the time to do that, and
So
motivated
it wasn't,
me.
okay,
that
so
ball
people
now?
will say,
At home?
like when Tony tried to explain it, it's like, it wouldn't change it for the world and all that stuff. There was nothing disingenuous about our group. We really fucking cared about people. We had just gone through the '90 World Cup. We were clearly not good enough to play in that World Cup, and we knew some of us, like in that group, and those guys, some of those guys, great guys, great teammates, good friends. But that was the pinnacle, just to get there. Half of that team said, "I made it. I'm done. This is as good as it's going to get." And then there was Tab, there was John, there was Marcelo, there was myself, who said, "There's more to this. This is the beginning, not the end."
What's the best moment you lived in terms of World Cups? You have like a highlight, a moment?
Goal against Switzerland?
I'd love to say that, that's it, but it's not. And I exchanged jerseys with Escobar.
Oh, shit.
I had that,
wow.
I had that shirt.
Do you still have it?
I gave it to his family. I went to Medellin and gave it to the family. That was the right thing
What
to
was
do.
that experience like? How did that?
Oh, that was really emotional. That was intense. But that game, when we won 2-1, it was hot as hell, and we got through it. We won the game. It was like, holy shit, we just beat Colombia, the #2 team in the world. Had just beaten Brazil in qualifiers, in front of our home, at the Rose Bowl. Everybody that I know is there, right? Just that emotion to like, holy shit, we're beating these guys 2-0. But it was at the end of the game, to answer your question, I took off my shoes and my socks, and I was running around the stadium with Lexi and Marcelo, and we got the flags and all that shit. And Bora Milutinović, same guy, looks at me and goes, "So unprofessional." And I just went, "Fuck you." Right there, and he laughed. He was actually funny because he was basically almost ruining my moment. I was like, this is the coolest thing. We just beat one of the best teams in the world. All this build-up. And
Pressure.
Yeah, but that team could handle it. That group, when Tony talked about, he knows how special those guys are, he's not lying. That was a special group of people.
So, okay, this group is special, but when you talk about that group being special, is it more so the connection you guys had? Are you saying it's a talent, individual talent? Is it collective talent? Like, what is it about that group, in your opinion? You were obviously there, part of it, that made that group different than maybe other teams?
Okay, one, we accepted each other. I think that was the one thing. Everybody thinks you got to really like each other and you got to be friends. No, you don't. And all this stuff that we hear about brotherhood and all that, the national team is forced friendship. That's what it is. You don't have a choice to have an ego. They put the best 11 guys on the field, and those guys represent all of us. That's it. It's pretty simple. We don't have to like each other. We don't have to go to dinner together. We don't have to. And I'm not saying that we didn't, but we were very different people from very different backgrounds. But when we took the field, there was an understanding of the magnitude of it.
You said brotherhood, like to me, I would have thought that in a team setting, that's something that you strive for, and you almost look at it like
I know, but
totally
it happens. It's not
unnecessary.
Band of Brothers. This isn't war. It's not. But when I look at that, I look at the team today, right? And I look at the way that they address that, about how they love playing for this coach and they love playing with each other and all that stuff. No, that's not the right dynamic.
How is that not the right dynamic?
Because if you really feel that you're friends with your coach, familiarity will breed contempt at some point. And then it turns into complacency. And then it turns into, I don't have to play great today. I don't have to prove anything. He's going to put me on the field.
Isn't there a difference between he's my friend and I like playing for him? Is there a difference between that?
They like playing for him as long as he keeps picking them. Yeah, that's how that works. Right?
So you suggesting that the positive...
No, what I'm suggesting is the best players who are in the best form, no bullshit, no politics, pick them, and those guys go get it done. Yeah, there's gonna be some.
No matter if you like them or don't like them. Who's going to help you win?
That's my.
Who's gonna
Do you
help
think
your
that
team be
happens
successful?
currently?
Well, I mean, I was it Jesse? Jesse Marsh was sitting right here talking about development. And I disagree with him wholeheartedly that this is, if you make it all about winning, you won't. No. The objective is to win the game. But when you go about it the wrong way, and it is hard to explain, you're producing mediocrity. The acceptance of a different definition of success. I would say this about the current situation, because I figured at some point you're going to ask. I just don't think our coach is going about it the right way.
Do you think this current system breeds mediocrity?
Well, it depends on what our goals are. And if we start setting the bar at a spot and it keeps happening over and over again. Like,
Yeah, I agree that, like,
If you don't ever think you're going to win, you're never going to win.
no, but we can't keep, I agree that we can't keep saying that just like success is getting out of the group, right? At a certain point, we gotta, if we're saying that we're progressing as a country, if we're saying that we're making strides, we're producing better players, that we're trending in the right direction, then
Careful what
why
you
would our
produce,
expectations
though.
not be higher?
produce better players that do what? That play? It's a mindset. When we have a bunch of kids who are really talented and they aren't effective, they look good doing it, and it looks great, and we can build the metrics that say they never lost the ball today. How many chances did you take?
Yeah. That's the vibe I'm getting from what you're saying. Is like, who's taking risk? Who's playing brave? Who's truly believing by the way in which you play? Or are you being scared? Are you sitting back, scared to make mistakes? Let the game try to get into penalties and stuff like that. Are you going for the game? Are you going to try to win?
And that's
like having that killer mentality.
But we
You
have
think the players
coaches.
now are scared?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Are you
Your
saying
coaches
that?
were scared. We're all saying the same thing. But let me take you to the root of the problem. Go through all the World Cups. Every single one of these coaches got it wrong when it mattered most. This is a true story. We shared the same coach, Paul Mariner.
May he rest in peace.
Oh, what a guy, man, what a coach.
Incredible
What an incredible human being. And we were both very fortunate at a very, I would say, impressionable time in your career when you were 19 years old in 2004. I had him at the age of, 38. Still playing, still trying to play, and he was my assistant coach. And nobody prepared me for Europe better than that. I was so lucky to have him have, his take on the game, his ability to understand me and to understand what I was good at and to make. So what happens is he calls me. I'm doing the TV now. I'm retired, so I get a call from Paul, and he says, "Oh, well, you know how he talks. Gotta come see me, Waldo." So I flew out a day early, and we had a dinner and a beer, and we just hung out and caught up on everything. He says, "You gotta come to practice tomorrow." I said, "Well, I'm here. I'm gonna go." So I show up to practice. And after the warm-up's over, you guys went into some possession. He's come over and stood with me. And this is my first live look at you. First time. I've seen you on TV up to that point. So Paul's standing here, and I said, "So what's with the kid with the dopey haircut?"
I was trying to save money on haircuts.
Oh, man.
Growing it out.
And I said, "What's this guy all
No
about?"
country for old men.
Honestly, you're not joking with that. At one point, it was really that bad. But so my
I wouldn't say
question.
it's that bad, but that's all good.
So it was pretty bad. I mean, who am I to talk about hair? I mean, my hair was terrible. I didn't care about my hair. So we started having this conversation, and I said, "Why is he playing the 6? He's not a 6." And Paul didn't say anything. He just kind of smiled. You know how you do that? He just smiled. And he goes, "Thank you." And we watched the end of practice. You guys worked on some stuff. And then he brought Stevie over. And Stevie comes over, Stevie Nickel. And he says, "Hey, Waldo," whatever. And I said, "What's going on with Clint?" And he didn't even think. He didn't even hesitate. He goes, "You fucking put him up to that. You fucking put him up to that," because he knew where I was going with it.
You got the impressions on point.
Yeah. But he was upset.
He thought Paul had been talking to you.
He thought Paul set it up to get me to say, "Play Clint further up the field," which is essentially what happened. So let's give Paul his credit there, because that's what he did. He orchestrated the whole fucking thing. If I'm being honest, if I'm really truly being honest, when I saw you play, that's why this makes sense to me now. It's like, look at this guy, man. Shit, I can pass the torch to somebody, and he's gonna run with it. He said, this guy can play. And that meant everything to me. But to watch you have to struggle through playing out of position was exactly what I had gone through. So I'm like, what the hell are we doing? This is Groundhog Day. Are we getting better or not? There's the talent right there, and you're playing them out of position. So we went on TV, and I'll never forget this, man. You weren't even playing that well. You really weren't, to be honest. You weren't having a great game, but you did something. You did a no-look something. And I said it on the air live. I said, I'm just gonna say this now. This guy is the best soccer player in America. As a commentator, I appreciated the way you played because there was always that effective versus attractive, right? Why not both? And what this country does a lot, and they did it to me, they've done it to other people, is, you know, the willingness to continue to try to do it your way. I have a big problem with that, and I think a lot of coaches in this country think that their job, their function, is to teach kids how to play, and that's not. They're a facilitator of a game that is the greatest teacher, and they don't get that.
Everybody needs molding, though, no?
But the game will teach you that. I mean, let's face it. You know, the way that he played the game. And by the way, I did say that on the air as the best player, and thank you for proving me right.
Oh, appreciate you.
Can I just ask this? Because you were very vocal on Twitter, at least, during that period of time, 2022 World Cup in Qatar, Gio's not being started.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to be so vocal? Because it almost felt to me, like reading some of what you were tweeting, that you were having private conversations with Claudio, it felt like, and then kind of sharing them on the Twitter space. No?
That's not what
Is that
happened.
not accurate?
No. Man, if I shared what Claudio was saying, that would be a whole new deal. I just knew too much.
So do we not know the full story of what happened?
No, nobody knows how that all went down. Nobody. And I think we could really, it's so easy to look at it and say you had two parents who were very vocal and then really went after a very good friend of theirs for many years. And like, how is this possible? I mean, it's the World Cup and it looks like some youth club, you know, everybody's just yelling at each other. I mean, a lot happened, but I think when you look at the way that it went down, my opinions of Greg Berhalter as a coach, of the way that he conducts himself and the way that he coaches this team. I don't think he's getting the most out of these guys. I know a lot of people do. I do not. And I thought he was sorely misused in that World Cup. So part of it was, you know, when you are not chosen, and you got to live it, you got to feel that burn when you didn't play. What people don't realize is, you know, Claudio was our best player in '94.
But what I will say about Gio.
But he pulled his hamstring, and he didn't play.
But what I will say about Gio, I agree that he is one of the most talented players. The only issue that's ever been is his fitness. Can he stay healthy? Can he play consistently week in and week out? And
but this whole thing was bad because he said he's hurt.
But if he's not injured with anything,
you can't lie about it.
Can't lie about it.
The reason you bring up the Claudio thing is you're saying that this is like a relived trauma for him, that this was triggering to father Claudio to see his son.
Claudio lived it. Claudio was our best player, and we played against Mexico in the last game.
But does that excuse anything?
No, it doesn't excuse anything. But as humans, we all make mistakes, and we get too emotional, but to villainize them and to make it, you know, it went way too far.
Because I look at what you're saying, and I'll say, okay, I go back to your '94 group, right? Bora Milutinović gets the most out of you guys because you took World Cup champions Brazil the 90 minutes where they thought,
not really,
wow,
Charlie, not really.
I know they were down a man, but
we understood who we were more so than our coach did, and he got it. And ultimately, he got it wrong.
What about Bruce?
And then if you flash forward, Bruce is another guy that it was about his guys. He was going to play his guys.
In '02?
But in that particular scenario, he did the one thing that we never thought he was going to do. He changed the formation against Mexico, put Claudio out on the right, and we surprised them, watching the Mexicans try to figure out what the hell are they doing. This is not what we expected. And that was the Dos a Cero, and all of us were up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, damn, this is awesome. But it was ballsy, it was an understanding of the group, and it was something that we hadn't really seen in a World Cup in a game of that magnitude.
I feel like one of the criticisms for Greg Berhalter with his national team is that his system is too intricate, that he's asking the players to do things that maybe aren't natural to them or that are too complicated for a national team versus a club team, right? And now you're saying almost to give them a little bit more freedom to just go and express themselves, to play how they would normally play.
Within a structure, but in positions, or in phases of the game, parts of the game that truly suit their skill set. Unfortunately, when you get the ball in a big game or in a national team game and you're thinking about what you're supposed to do because there was some team meeting that told me that in this moment or in these kind of scenarios, this is what I do, that's no longer anything that has to do with talent or instinct. That is the wrong voice in your mind at the wrong time. You got to be able. You have to be able to think for yourself. That is the beauty of this game.
I think there's both. I think there's a way that they can coexist. In the sense, if you can have like
well, that's what I'm saying too. But
yeah,
I think it's too regimented.
You can have patterns of play and relationships between certain players and certain movements, but there is certain moments where you have to say fuck it and do something creative, and because it's more difficult to create than it is to destroy. But you have to have those certain moments where you do something brilliant that no one expects to create that opening, which creates.
Right.
So I agree that you need freedom. You need freedom, but at the same time, you have to give somebody a little bit of a blueprint, a little bit of
some guys. It's that old saying. Some guys play the piano, some guys carry it. That's the way this works. Yeah. But and understanding your roles and understanding the importance of the team always comes first. They shouldn't be afraid to play and play what they see. And
they
to lose.
Shouldn't be, or they shouldn't.
They shouldn't be afraid at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Because there's such an onus sometimes about the metrics of the game and these statistics that they pile out. Like players today, man, sorry, but they'll come in after practice and they'll pull off their
GPS. Just because you ran a lot doesn't mean you play well.
I went 6.1 miles today.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Or just because you have a certain amount of pass completion.
Right. And
did you play forward? Or did you always play back? Did you always play safe? So I agree. Those numbers.
You can't be afraid of the numbers, right? You have to almost get convenient amnesia to a certain extent. Like I lost the ball 3 times in a row. But I want to know who the players are who are going to change the game, have the willingness to fail, and then still produce a moment of magic.
Well, if you go back to '94, right? World Cup happens. Your career kind of goes all over the place. And then you come into the media, now you're seeing it from this angle, from this way. You've learned a lot, you've seen a lot. 2026 happens, next World Cup in the States. What do you think needs to happen to make sure we get things right?
It's gonna sound so simplistic, but look at the group that we have. They don't need to be told how to play a position. They need to be who they are, and we need to have a coach who is willing to let it go. Have your principles, have the ability to play defense.
Well, no, if you think of like a modern day great coach, like a Pep Guardiola, he has a system,
he's
right?
Controlling, but how about Ancelotti? Let's ask Jude Bellingham how he...
What if Ancelotti didn't have top quality players? What if he wasn't at Real Madrid?
We saw that at Everton.
Okay.
Everton wasn't top half of the table. We saw.
So you would rather a coach who doesn't have a system?
I'm agreeing with you in terms of Ancelotti.
Oh,
if you put Ancelotti with,
she got combative.
Yeah. No, I'm saying if you put Ancelotti with Nottingham Forest, you think Nottingham Forest are top half of the table? No.
I think he's a great man management.
Yes.
Not to reduce him to man management.
But you need
That's way too simplistic.
So what is the difference between? I'm not saying Ancelotti should be the national team manager. I didn't say that, but we do have big personalities. There's so many different ways to play this game. That the one thing I would say about the team that we have right now, I'm just going to say this: we are the most predictable team in international soccer. Everybody knows what we're going to do. There is no surprise. There is no ambush. They just know that if they execute, and then when you go into a game in a World Cup against the Netherlands, and he goes, this is really what they're going to do.
Which is?
Play the same way, in the same positions. They don't. There's never. It's like, to me, you know, when you play the game when I learned this in my time in Germany, because I had Klaus Toppmüller, for example, who was a top coach. He really was. But he said, he goes, we are lions. And I didn't understand. And he goes, when we're in the field and we're watching the antelope go by, we're watching not for the big, strong one with the big antlers. I'm not going to eat that one. Find me the little one that's limping. That's dinner.
It's that little Charlie.
One of the things I wanted to talk about, because we kind of talked a little bit about 1990, 1994. We didn't really get into 1998, right? And I don't know how to do this without feeling like I'm like sticking a finger into a personal issue. But obviously, you've spoken publicly about the situation with John Harkes and the situation that. Can you explain to me how this even comes out? So a teammate of yours is found to be having an affair with your wife at the time. And you guys are playing in a national team setting. Mm-hmm. How did that come out? How did it affect? What was the immediate effect on the team, on your home life? Like,
how did you find out? Because I've heard.
Oh, it was always a teammate. Yeah, it was Joe Max Moore.
Was it was it widely known? Do you think within the team? And how far before the 1998 World Cup is this? Like, what's the time frame?
This is. There was a couple of times, but this was actually, we would go on trips with the national team and our wives would be there. Mm. If I'm truly being honest, and why did this all happen, is I got injured. My focus was getting healthy. Mm. I did not have time for my wife. I didn't really, this was too important.
Focus was elsewhere.
And that's kind of where it kind of just happened. I wasn't there. I wasn't present. So I wasn't, you know. So I look at it from a different perspective, and a lot of people think I'm crazy. But John and I were such close friends. And yeah, then a lot of people say, well, that must make it so much worse. That must be so much more painful. And I think that there's a part of me that is just more forgiving than most. And
were you
I remember I went to the
coach.
I went to the coach and I said, I know what happened. He needs to be on the team.
But you didn't believe it at first, right?
I said that.
But when that first came out, when you were first told by a teammate, did you believe it at first?
I did believe it, and it made sense. John and I, we went on vacations together with family. I mean, like, we were about as tight as you can get. So this is one of those.
How do you mean it made sense?
When I was neglecting to be a good husband, and my wife.
That doesn't give the right for another man to come. Yeah.
I know, but I know John better than, and I don't want to get into the realities of who he was. He's no longer that person, which is actually good. And I'm happy that one, his family stayed intact, and it didn't result in a divorce. I divorced my wife.
But I'm sorry, like, first of all, I'm sorry that it happens, right? Like, this fucking madness. But you said to Steve Sampson, who was the coach at that time, right?
Yeah,
you told him to keep him on the team.
Yeah.
I struggle with that. Like, there's no way in hell, if any of these...
You struggle with it because you can't see yourself having the capacity to...
There's no way in hell. There's no way I could walk into a locker room and look at one of these two and knowing that there's just no way. So I
Boy, she went right to you. Did you see that?
he was looking over here. He didn't look at me.
So there's no way I could walk around.
Look, and I don't even...
Hey, it's gonna be the last time you call me a little gazelle.
You haven't got your horns yet. No, look, I get it. I'm not trying to get all Hollywood here, but you know, it happens in Hollywood. But it wasn't as painful as people
Is
make
this
it out
you
to
now
be.
talking with growth? Like, I'm past it,
Yeah, like-
hindsight, I'm okay.
I was
At
in the
time,
moment. I was not willing to put my personal problem in front of the team.
But you're not putting it in front of the team. He's now done that. My question.
And I get it. Okay.
I'm not trying to attack you. Yeah. Let me
No,
drill that
it's
back in
okay.
a little bit.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Because I know, like, and I've told this story a few times, but we had that game where it was the
Centennial.
yeah,
Centennial, my bad.
Centennial. Sorry, right. Yeah, I couldn't say it either.
Sentinel.
100 years. Whatever that is.
So you gotta understand. So we show up, and I'm no longer with
Furman's
my
on.
ex-wife.
That's my Nacogdoches.
And I don't like, to be honest with you guys, I don't like rehashing this simply because I still have
apologize. I'm
kids
sorry.
that this had an incredible effect on. And my family's good, and my kids, I love them to death. I have 6, which you do too, which just really pisses me off because for a long time I had 6, he had 5. I had finally beat him at something, and then he had to go and tie me up. But well, not like that. But so what ends up being this weird deal is there was 3 tables. There's a lot of people at that thing. It's a table over here, and I'm over here, and then there's all the presidents, and they're in the middle table, and then John and it was over here. And I remember the discomfort of the room. I remember everybody was like, "Oh my God, look, they're like in the same," whoa, and nobody could handle it. And I grabbed my wife's hand now, Amanda, and I said, "I gotta do this," and she goes, "Okay." And I got up and I started to walk over there. And Sunil Gulati would go, "Eric, please stop that." Please. And I was like, "I'm going in," and then
The whole room must have been like,
Hey,
no, but it was like
trying to stop with a handshake?
but it was like a pin drop moment. It really was. And I went over to John and I said, "Stand up." And I don't think he knew what was going to happen at that point.
was he like this? Like,
He kind of went, "Oh God," and he stood up, and Cindy was there, and I said hi to his wife, and I kissed her on the cheek, and then I hugged him, and I said, "Life is too short. We were too good of friends. We all know what's happened, but I don't think that we need to be enemies." And I held him really tight when I said that. So what ends up happening is people are kind of like, "What the hell?" And then we started to walk because we had been summoned to go eat. And now we started to walk back behind that big tent. And somebody started clapping. Somebody was like, "Oh my God, this is so amazing." And then like 2 or 3 people turned, and I said, "Hold on with your claps, only one of us is coming back." And it kind of diffused it. Everybody kind of laughed, and then we got on with the day.
Did he ever apologize?
Yeah, of course.
You know how you said like brotherhood isn't what you need in a team? He very clearly broke one of the rules of brotherhood, right? Did that, even though you say brotherhood isn't what you need, how much did that affect the 1998 World Cup performance? What
Oh my
happened
God,
for
it
you
killed
guys?
us. We were dead before it started. I mean, there's a whole conspiracy theory that goes along with that team and how it all went down, and Steve Sampson's inclusion in it, which we don't need to get into today. But I think, he was our captain. Remember the book came out, Captain for Life? Remember that? Captain, not for long. But we played in the Copa America. We played in some big games, and that's the John I wanted on the field to represent the country, whether he deserved it or not. I think we had a better chance of winning if he was out there, and I was willing to. I don't know if it's sacrifice. It's to do my job, and everybody out there works with somebody they don't like, or has a problem with them. But you still got to do your job. You just
tell me about it.
this is a different level.
Tell me about it. Every single day I got to be around.
This is a different level, though.
No, it is a different level. But I mean, look. Okay, so let's.
Yeah, what I will
fucking
say,
liven this up a little bit? Tell a funny story or something.
Hey, but what I will say, you and Tony, y'all have some big hearts, bro. Y'all be forgiving and forgetting.
But okay, but hold on. But here's
You're
the
not
thing.
forgetting, but forgiving.
Look, I will say this about that '94 gang and what we endured and what the Federation put us through. I mean, literally treated us like shit. And we came together as a group, whether we were brothers or not, we had a common goal, and it was important for us to succeed in that time, in our history. We just didn't have time for the trivial shit. We had to get it done.
We want to wrap with some fun, if that's okay.
Let's do
Like
it.
so
rapid
we're gonna
fire?
do-
Are you gonna ask me any more personal questions?
Oh, rapid fire is a good. Let's do rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
Word association. I'll say we each say a name. You give me the first word that comes into your mind.
Because this is okay. Good luck. Let's go.
Yeah.
Good luck. Jürgen Klinsmann.
Way before his time.
Bob Bradley.
Structured.
Claudio.
Misunderstood.
Landon Donovan.
Overrated.
What was it? I didn't hear you.
Overrated.
Oh shit.
What do you mean, oh shit?
Dang, I just didn't know that was
Bruce Arena.
He's here, by the way. He's in the
It's
back.
okay.
Just want to disclaimer.
I would say it to his face.
You know.
Bruce and I'll never forget it, man. That was the last day I ever played for the national team. He asked a question, he didn't like my answer, and that was it. Bruce is out of time. He was great at that time, but it might be time to say goodbye. Kyle Martino.
Ooh.
Spineless.
Holy shit.
Next.
Wait, hold on.
Hey, one more.
Wait,
one
I
more.
got one.
Eric Wynalda.
Also misunderstood. Oh, wait, you know what? I'm a dad. That's who I am. You ask me who I am. If anybody asks me what I am, I got 6. That's the love of my life, those children.
Amen. Christian Pulisic.
Tormented.
I like how I got leapfrogged over here, but
I had a good one. I just wanted to get it in.
Here we go.
Gio.
Our best player.
That's a good ending.
Like it. Yeah.
That's a better ending.
See, that's
Eric-
the ending we wanted.
Yes. Thank
cool.
you, Charlie. We appreciate you. Good to see you, man.
Mo's reacting was priceless.
Oh, you thought I was done? Oh my God. No.